Best.Podcast.Ever is sponsored by the Gertzberg Law Firm, a full-service business law firm in Cleveland and Chagrin Falls that's changing the way businesses retain their attorneys. Go to gertzberglaw.com to learn more. While you're there, check out Cover My Six, a complete legal audit of the 6 areas that most often create or prevent business lawsuits and government investigations. Go to covermysix.com to learn how we keep you safe. Enjoy the show.
Ladies and gentlemen, you're about to listen to the best podcast ever recorded.
I don't care if you want to spend $400 or $30,000. I want to make sure that you end up leaving with the best item that you can buy for whatever amount of money it is that you want to spend.
Hey folks, Alex Gertzberg here. Thanks for tuning in to another exciting episode of Best Podcast Ever. So this episode you're about to listen to is with a great dude and a good friend, Chad Verhoff. Chad is the proprietor of Jackson Gray Jewelers in Chagrin Falls, and we had a really good conversation. It was just Chad and me. Chad and I think this is a Chad and me. Yeah, Chad. It was just Chad and me, and I am saying that correctly. Chad and I met to chat at his jewelry store in Chagrin Falls, and what is great about that is that Chad has a fantastic bourbon collection. And what's not so great about that is we drank a bunch while we were recording this. The other thing that's not so great about it is that I think that what happened was that there was some interference from the electrical system or grid or whatever in the store, and I thought we tested it really well up front, but apparently not, because our editor has since informed us that every few minutes there would be this bad buzz or feedback, and so we had to cut out some of this amazing interview, and I regret that. And Chad, I'm sorry that happened. In retrospect, I think I know what happened because we tested it and it all sounded great. And I think what that might be is that if you've been in Chad's place, it's really cool. It's in this sort of indoor little mall in Chagrin Falls. I think that might be from other stores, but I suspect that's what it is. Here's what I'll tell you. We had a really interesting conversation, and I am certain that even the parts of the conversation that have stayed in the recording are ones that you're going to enjoy. And the parts that we had to cut out because of noise, they were probably the lame ones, and they were the boring parts anyway, so I bet you're not missing out on anything. At least that's what I'm going to lead you to believe. Chad is, aside from being the proprietor of a really cool jewelry store, is a jewelry manufacturer. He is an artiste. He is an artisan. He is a craftsman. He has in that shop all of this really cool equipment like 3D printers and laser something or other. Hopefully that's the part that was not cut out due to feedback noise. He walks us through some of it. A lot of jewelers in town send their jewelry to Chad to work on, which tells you something about how reputable he is. He's a really good dude. But in addition to doing all of those things, he's also I look up to Chad. I don't know which one of us is older. I think we're about the same age, but I look up to him in his adventurous spirit. He's kind of this Renaissance man, Hemingway-ish, Teddy Roosevelt-ish kind of a guy who knows what gives him joy. He's identified it. He knows what is out there in the world that he really looks forward to doing. And then he goes out and he does it and he gets it. For example, he's an archer. I'm talking about like a competitive archer. And that's something that he does just because it gives him joy. He also makes his own jerky, makes his own wine. He is just he's a good-natured soul with a great sense of humor. And I really enjoyed our interview, and I hope you enjoy it as much as I did. Chad Verhoff.
Yes, sir.
What do you think the original pronunciation of that was when when they came off the boat?
When they came over, it was probably a Vanderhoof.
Ooh, interesting.
At least on the Dutch side.
How far back do you think you guys go?
I know like there was a farm in Ohio in the 1800s, early 1800s when they came over. So that's what I know.
My family came over in 1979. With me in it.
With you in it. Right,
Yeah.
right. There you go.
All right, Chad, we took the show on the road today.
Yeah.
Let's paint a picture for our
For
audience.
sure.
I'll start because
Okay.
it's a little wacky. This is not your mom's jewelry store, right? So, folks, I'm sitting here with Chad in I guess the middle part of the 3-part store that is located in. God, I always just called this the Village Martini Bar building. But
Now, this is the gallery.
the Gallery, Washington.
The gallery at 516 Washington.
Jackson Gray Jewelers. Jackson Gray Jewelers. So
Yep.
when you walk in, folks, it's a little surreal, right? So you walk in, obviously the jewelry part is jewelry. Really cool jewelry. We'll
Yeah.
talk about that in a second. But then you look over to your right, you turn your head 90 degrees, and there is this really interesting bourbon collection. You walk in, when you turn to the left, there are watches. If I'm what is behind me
What's
now.
behind you now?
The watch bands are wooden,
All of it's wood.
right?
So they're all wood. Yeah.
How unusual is
Yeah.
that?
Very cool stuff.
You walk back a little, so you see all that, and you think, man, I want to do business with this cat. But then you walk a little further, and you realize this ain't just a jewelry store. This is a dude that makes jewelry in the back. You walk through, and then there's this little office area. There's a portrait of a pig with pearls on
It's
it
our
to
sassy
the right.
swine.
Sassy swine.
It's our sassy swine.
that a thing?
And there's
Is
a
that-
story behind that also.
What was that thing that spins around?
The centrifugal casting machine.
A centrifugal casting machine.
There you go. There you go.
There were things that look like they belong in a brain surgeon's
we got a couple of those.
lab. There's
There's a laser.
That's
There's
right.
a laser. Yeah, the laser welder.
Needless to say, Chad,
Lot of
Verhoff,
stuff.
Not what you would expect to see in a jewelry store.
Yeah, you're spot on.
Yeah.
The other thing too is that typically when you go into a jewelry store, you don't see that aspect of the store.
Yeah.
You know that's always behind a closed door. There's typically it was an old guy with an apron and
Right.
polish on his hands, and typically wasn't really thought of as presentable to the clients.
Yeah.
We kind of break that mold.
Yeah, and by the way, folks, I mean, being a true host, the true host that he is, Chad has offered, and I accepted this fantastic bourbon that we're drinking right now. It looks like it came from the shipwreck that wall came from the bottom of the storage space. It's Bibb and Tucker. And it might be the smoothest bourbon I've ever had. And it's your favorite, you said?
Right now, it has definitely been my my pour of choice.
It's fantastic.
Yeah.
So Chad, now that we've gotten the intro out of the way, have I described your shop?
Yeah.
With the requisite
Yeah.
and respectful
Spot
detail?
on. Spot on.
what does the process look like in which you manufacture the jewelry that is just right for me?
It's kind of, what are you looking for? Are you looking for, the shape of a diamond? Or is it a particular style of ring that you think you want to give? Once we kind of figure out those things, then the nuts and bolts really kind of come and show themselves. Like, what kind of a cost are you looking at going into? For me personally, I don't care if you want to spend $400 or $30,000. I want to make sure that you end up leaving with the best item that you can buy for whatever amount of money it is that you want to spend.
So
period.
Keep going, right?
Yeah.
So now you know what kind of stone they're looking for.
Correct. So once we kind of get into, I'm looking for a round diamond or an asher, then I end up showing the clients, here's an array of different stones that kind of fall into their price point parameters. And then we go through a whole education process to where you'll understand the difference between, this color and clarity, or what differentiates this from the other two. A lot of the times when clients look at things, they really don't have they've got more of a layman's understanding of it. So we're here to really just kind of give them a technical perception of what it is that they're looking at and go from there.
So now we've chosen the diamond.
Yeah.
What's next in that process?
So after you have the diamond kind of plotted out, the direction. Now it's okay. One, you either find out how much money's left in the budget to either go really big, and if she wants, or if you think that she wants a lot of diamonds around the side of the bands, or if you want to just keep it really simple, presented in a simple solitaire style, and then maybe you get her involved after it's given, then kind of, get her take on what kind of a ring she wants. Rings are super personal. A lot of guys make the mistakes too, where they go really big with the design and they want all these diamonds on it and things of that sort. And then when she gets it, she's like, okay, it's not really what I would have picked.
Well, and that's the part that's the part that you are really putting your creativity into, right?
Yeah.
So walk me through how you sync up with them on what's in their mind and
sure.
You know what I mean? Like,
so what's cool is that we do have a collection of bridal jewelry in our showcase, and there's an array of designs. So really, you'll pick through this, that, I like this, I don't like this. Then what we can do, so we've got a CAD program here in the store that is synced up to our 3D wax printer. So if there are two stones, or two rings rather, that you like different elements of, we can mock them up on our CAD program and kind of mesh them together. And then with the 3D wax printer, we can print up that model, to where it is realistic as you can get.
That's crazy.
Then you can see exactly what that mashup is. If you like it, great. Then we continue. If you don't like it and you want to make certain changes, then we do so until it's right.
So I'm curious, Chad. I'm going to guess, and that's all this is this is rank speculation here, that you were an artist or a craftsman before you were a jeweler. True or false?
False.
Oh, man, I thought I was going to be right about this.
The only reason I say false is because I've always been a jeweler.
Really?
I started in this industry when I was 14 years old. So other than a paper route that my father got me for my 14th birthday and mowing my neighbor's lawns, this is all I've ever known and all I've ever wanted to be. That's it.
So at 14, what are you doing to sell jewelry?
My mother brought me into a local jewelry store to get her jewelry cleaned. And the owners and my parents, they were friends. And so when I saw their two jewelers in the back room, I said, hey, can I go see what they're working on? And so they allowed me to go in the back, which kind of is not necessarily allowed at all times. I got to go back there, and one guy was actually raising a silver tray hammering the dents out or something with this hammer and on an anvil. And the other guy had this welding machine and was wearing goggles, and they were old, salty looking dogs, man. I mean, they looked cranky. I mean, if you looked up the word crotchety in a dictionary, it was these two guys. And so I thought, this is the coolest thing ever. My grandfather on my mother's side was an Italian shoemaker, had a shoe shop, and my grandfather on my father's side was a steel worker. He worked for crane companies, and then he was a woodworker. So when I visited my grandparents, they had polish on their hands. They had aprons on. My grandfather, my dad's side, had a wood shop, so you would go out to see him making Adirondack chairs and swings and things of that sort. So to see, the craft side of things,
right.
And then that day when I went into that jewelry store, it hit me.
So then you're in that business ever since?
Ever since. So basically, the cool part of that story too is I asked them, my parents are not in the industry. So I asked them, how does one become a jeweler? Okay. So this is how it was explained to me. He looked at me and he said, how much money do you have? So I leaned around the corner and I said, Mom, how much money do I have? She says, I don't know. You have a couple $100. So he tells me, go home and draw what you think jewelry is. So I designed a bunch of things, and I went to the jewelry store a week later, 2 weeks later, showed them these pieces that I designed. They took the $200, they bought metal, and then they showed me how to make the things that I drew. Pretty cool.
Hold on.
Yeah.
All right. So everything about that story makes perfect sense to me.
Yeah.
Except the $200.
Yeah. They bought all silver. Everything was done in silver.
I'm saying though, I mean, couldn't they have given you that same education without taking your last two? Like they literally took every penny you had.
You know what? And here, to me, it also proved a valuable lesson. Like seriously, if you came to me and said, "Hey, you want to, teach me how to do something," and if you valued someone's time, put something into it. Because for what I got for that $200 for them buying that metal, I just invested into it.
And so you then they turned that metal into the thing that you drew.
They didn't. They
showed you how
they
to do
bought the metal, because
Yeah.
if you walked into a place and said, "Hey, I got $200, I'm just going to go buy metal," you don't necessarily know where to buy the metal. So they bought the metal for me, and then in the evening or after school and on the weekends when I would go there, they basically set time aside and showed me,
Okay.
"Hey, here's how you form this metal. Here's how you hammer the metal." But I did all the work to make these items.
And what was the final work product of that? What does it look like?
Oh, it was right now, it was very, very archaic looking stuff, because clearly I'm 14 and
But specifically, what are we talking about?
I made several bracelets.
Okay.
That involved different techniques of the craft. So I was piercing metal,
Okay.
which is where you saw out a sheet. You saw out a design of a sheet. Then they taught me how to solder those pieces together to make bracelets. I made a few necklaces. I know my mother was gifted the majority of them for Mother's Day and things of that sort.
The story makes a lot more sense to me now.
Yeah.
Part of me was like, man, I bet you they took $20 and kept $180.
No, it was literally,
That makes sense.
It was a
now.
really cool thing.
Yeah.
And so from 14 to 18 till I graduated high school, I worked there throughout the holiday seasons. Typical things like, you've got to sweep the floors.
Right.
It's just a really cool, super cool experience.
We have a crack research department here at Best.Podcast.Ever,
Wow.
Chad, as you know. And there's a couple things that we learned about you from our crack research department, which is made up entirely of former Navy SEALs and NSA people. One is that you make your own jerky. True or false?
True.
What's that all about?
So
We're going on a total tangent here. We're going to come back to the jewelry.
This is good.
But I got to know. I'm looking at notes and I'm getting distracted, and I got to know what's the deal with making your own jerky.
The bourbon's talking to you right now because you want some jerky. Hence,
do you have jerky here? Oh my goodness, folks. This is what you want when you host a podcast. What you want is for your guest to manufacture food. Oh my goodness, Chad just brought out a vacuum sealed bag of what looks to be the finest jerky. I ask because frankly I'm a little hungry, Chad, and yeah, that was calling out to me. This is why you shouldn't go and do podcasts while you're hungry. And then oh my goodness, look at we're gonna have to get a picture of this later. Yeah, this is fantastic.
It'll be available.
When did you get into? Is that? Oh yeah. Well, we're gonna get to that in a second. Too. When and how did you get into the jerky making business?
Back when I was a lad, my uncle,
fantastic.
My uncle Ivan, made the best venison jerky. Period. It was the best. I don't know what the heck he used, but I still remember when it was hunting season and you always had to go to Uncle Ivan's house because he was making jerky. That's my earliest memory of jerky. Yeah.
And then you started making it. Remind me, what kind of implements, what kind of equipment, you're drying stuff out. It's like right?
You can use your oven.
Really?
You can use an oven.
What is your process for making? This is delicious.
Not good.
It's very peppery.
Right. I look for London broil, less fat, or venison if you have it or can get it. Freeze it for a couple hours, and that's when you shave it or slice it when it's partially frozen. That way the meat's not kind of moving all over the place. So and then you can get consistent slices. Then the recipe that I use, this is a kind of a new twist. We take, I think I use Maker's Mark, bourbon, molasses, some red pepper. I think you got that. Some other red pepper, some more red pepper. No, I'm just kidding. Just a little bit of red pepper.
It's very peppery.
And a little bit of honey is what's in this one. There's other ones that I use where I'll what is it? I put a lot of ginger in it.
You know what,
just different
Chad?
Stuff.
You're into a lot of manly shit.
A lot of stuff, man. There's good,
Because bourbon, jerky making. The other thing that our crack research department learned about you is that you're an archer.
Yeah.
How about what? I can't remember the last time I met someone who was an archer. You can kill the venison and then turn it into jerky and then have it with your bourbon.
Exactly.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
When does that happen and how?
In the fall. That's when that happens.
Do you go bow hunting?
I do.
Do you really?
I do.
Where?
At my house. I shoot there.
Well, you used to be in Lake Lucerne.
I don't go there. You know what? I had several friends that had some property, but being a jeweler, not that I hunt. Clarification to my wife: I'm not a good hunter.
It's just
I'm not a good one. I'll put it this way: I didn't get into archery for the hunting side of it.
All right. That's a good clarification.
Didn't do that. Yeah. I'm more of a. Well, there's a big difference too. Mm-hmm. If you're a hunter, you don't really shoot a lot. You just sit in a tree or sit outside and wait. It's kind of like being put in, you're in adult timeout for cold, long periods of time.
But if you're an archer, you shoot all day long.
You shoot a lot. You go to tournaments and things of that sort, or you know, it's kind of like, it's like golf, but you shoot shit, you know?
So do you go to tournaments?
I do.
Often?
I do. I'm part of a group of archers called the Ohio Archers Association, plug. And there are 7 tournaments throughout the year. So there are different types of categories based on the type of equipment or the bow that you shoot. So you might shoot a traditional wooden bow, you know, like an Indian style bow, or you can shoot a compound bow.
Which one do you shoot?
So I shoot a compound bow.
Okay.
And then there's different variances based on the sight that you use and things of that sort. Put you in different categories.
You may just be the manliest jeweler I've ever met. Do you
Thank you.
Do you also go like exploring islands and bringing back?
You know what? I will say this. I love adventure. I used to scuba dive.
Yeah.
I would ice dive. I would go into caverns in Florida. If you give me something like, I mean, there's guys that love golf. There's guys that love baseball and watching football. I watch none of those. I couldn't tell you a player on the Browns team. I couldn't tell you like, oh, so-and-so got traded to the Cavs. No clue. But hey, you want to go in the woods and build something and go for a hike? Yeah.
All right, let's spend another minute on this because this is an important thing. This is an important. I believe that you can generally, very generally, put people into two buckets, right?
Okay.
And this is very general because obviously everyone's different. There's millions of buckets, but the two buckets are people who make shit happen and people who say they'll get to it one day.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
And the people who make shit happen are guys like you who do it now, do the exploration and the scuba diving and the archery, right? I read a long time ago this book. It was probably one of the most impactful books I've ever read. It's called A 4-Hour Work Week. Did you ever read that?
Sounds wonderful.
Oh my God, it's so good.
I couldn't imagine.
Here's the premise. Here's the premise of the 4-Hour Work Week in a nutshell, and I recommend it to everybody. And most of America operates on this idea that they will get to the exciting part of their life after they retire. So they're going to work really hard now, and they're going to work 8 to 10 hours a day, and then one day they will retire and do full time all the things that right now they only wish they can. And then there's the other part that says, wait a second, I might not even make it to 65. Or if I do make it to 65, I'm not going to want to do the same stuff that I want to do right now.
There's no way that you could.
Right?
Yeah, you'll be a different person.
Yeah. So that was the premise of this book. And ever since I read that book, and I think I read it for the first time when I was like in my 20s, this light bulb went off that there actually is a sense of urgency.
Yeah.
If you see it, and you look for it and you pursue it, there actually is a sense of urgency to fill your time, what precious time you have here, with things that excite you.
Yeah.
Because that day may never come.
For sure.
Right?
Yeah.
And when it does come, you may not want to go scuba diving.
Yeah. You might not be able to.
I'm saying.
Yeah.
So you're doing that stuff now. You're doing archery. Have you done archery for a really long time?
You know what? I got into archery when I was in Atlanta. So around 92, 93, I was working for a company. And there was a machinist that worked in the shop. And just a good old boy from northern Georgia. And so kind of hit it off and said, man, like, what are you into? What do you do on the weekends? And so he's like, man, I've always been wanting to like maybe take up archery. I thought that sounds awesome. I was big into fishing, so I was always doing outdoor stuff. And so we went to this archery range, an indoor archery range where they sell all the accoutrements to do it. And we were talking it up to these guys, and then we found out how much some of this equipment costs. And it's kind of specialized. I mean, back then and even now, it's not like you don't just jump in with both feet. You need to kind of test the water. So we couldn't afford new equipment right off the rack. So we talked to a guy who knew about a guy who had a bunch of equipment. So we said, hey, let's go talk to him. Find out, this is a cool story. We go to this guy's house in like southern Georgia or southern Atlanta. And we're like, we drive out there, and he had these window frames hanging in his trees. And he had several outhouses behind the back. And I'm like, this is weird. So the guy's name was Mike Norris. We go to his door, we knock on it, and this kind of, good old boy answers the door. And he's like, hey, I heard, so-and-so told me you were coming. So we're like, yeah, we're here to see a man about a bow, right? A man about a horse. And he goes, well, come on in. I've got some to sell you. Come to find out, that he did all of the trick shooting for the TV series Dukes of Hazzard. So all of the archery, like blowing up the outhouses and all that stuff, all of these things in his property were his target practices. So it was the coolest. I mean, spending an entire day with this guy was amazingly cool.
That sounds awesome.
Super cool. So we ended up buying 2 of his bows, one for each of us. Then we got into like a shooting league, an archery league at this archery store. And then we got into a couple tournaments. But it wasn't, then I kind of, when I moved, I separated myself from doing all that stuff. I actually got into whitewater kayaking also.
Is that right?
Yeah, when I was down there.
Do you go to Ohio Pile a lot?
I did when I lived at home as a kid. I think there was like a church, group, we went to Ohio Pile and did the Yak. But when I lived in Atlanta, I would kayak like the Ocoee and the Chattooga. Man. Several things.
All right. Jerky, bourbon, archery, whitewater rafting, scuba diving. What are we leaving out here? What else is there?
Man, I don't know.
Metal smithing.
Dude,
there is testosterone shooting out of your ears. It is oozing out of all of your pores. You can't help but be more manly by just walking down the hall from you. That's crazy.
Fun stuff.
Are you compensating for something?
No, not at all.
Is there something?
No, not at all.
No, in all seriousness, though, man, I'm envious. I mean, that's outstanding.
It's been fun. It's a lot of fun.
You know what you are? You're a Renaissance man.
Renaissance man. There you go.
You're a Renaissance. You're a Renaissance adventurous man. So like in the vein of like Teddy Roosevelt.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I'll go open up a park structure system.
Dude, yeah, go fight in somebody else's war. You know what I mean?
Yeah, might not be that guy.
All right, here. We can't. I got all kinds of other questions.
Yeah.
But let me knock some things out that I know are important. You've got an event coming up.
We do.
Talk to me.
We do. So we are having a Derby Day at Jackson Gray Jewelers. Okay. In December, we tested the waters and we had a guys' night out, and it was called Bourbon and Bling. And so we had a little bourbon tasting here in the jewelry store. We thought everyone had a great time, so we figured why not do it again? So we're doing it this time for the gals and the guys this Saturday, May 4th, Derby Day.
That's also Star Wars Day.
It's also May the 4th be with you.
Right.
And then the next day is Cinco de Mayo, right? Or Mayo. So
that's a busy weekend.
It's going to be a busy one.
It's a busy weekend for memes.
Yeah. Cinco de Derby.
Right.
Yeah.
All right. So what people want to do on the 4th of May is come here at what time?
4:00 is when we're starting
4:00.
The festivities.
Yeah, at the and what's the address again?
516 East Washington Street.
All right, folks, stop what you're doing, and don't bother coming over here unless you're a badass. All right, because Chad suffers no fools.
That's too funny.
All right. No, it sounds like fun. I'm gonna try. I'm gonna try to come over here,
dude.
Well, we got invited to this derby party downtown.
Oh yeah,
but I mean, between you and me, this sounds pretty fun. So
we're gonna try to hit both. Here's what we're doing. We're
gonna go to both of them actually.
Absolutely. Yeah. Ours doesn't end. Awesome. Not at any particular time. We're saying from 4 to 8. What we typically do is for the first 2 hours. We do a lot of bourbon tastings. Typically, it's either 4 or 5 different bourbons, and they're just simple little tastings. We are also having a raffle, which is kind of fun. You'll come in, you'll get 5 tickets, and then we're going to have a mason jar, about 20 of them, 1 per horse that's racing.
Ooh.
So then it's a little faux gambling, if you will.
Some stakes,
right?
I like it.
So at 6:30 when the race takes off, we'll go over to the Village Martini Bar, who is also our co-sponsor for the event. We'll watch the Derby, and then about 2.5 minutes later, we'll find out who the winner is. And then once that horse is chosen or declared the winner, we grab that mason jar, and then we start pulling tickets out of that winning horse's mason jar. We are giving away, it's a free event. We're giving away a bottle of Woodford Reserve, and it's our commemorative Derby bottle. Wow. There's, I think, a desktop cigar humidor, and some other cigar bourbon swag.
I'm going to go out on a limb right now, Chad, and say that whoever doesn't come here
they're
on
losers.
May the 4th are total
They're losers.
And frankly,
I don't need to know that.
I don't want to hang out with those guys anyway.
Yeah. If you see me at the grocery store, just turn around and walk the other direction.
Chad,
I'm just kidding.
Come
back.
I like hanging out with people in the know.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And clearly folks who are here from 4 to 8 on May the 4th are in the know. We're going to take a break right here so that I can go to the bathroom and so that you can, hit pause and come back in 8 seconds. Hang on. Hey folks, Alex Gertzberg here. I am CEO of the Gertzberg Law Firm and Cover My Six. And I hope you're enjoying the show so far. I wanted to take a quick second to tell you about something special we're doing at Cover My Six. If you own or run a business, I want you to go to covermysix.com to see if you qualify for a no-cost business vulnerability assessment. My business lawyers will meet with you in person, go over your customer contract, your employee handbook, and your other key legal documents, and help you spot any legal minefields that they see. We'll also give you some guidance on how to stop those minefields from blowing up your business. So go to covermysix.com to see if you qualify and to sign up. Thanks, and enjoy the rest of the show. All right, we're back. I was just thinking, Chad, how when I got engaged, of course I'm divorced now, but at the time it was a very happy moment.
Rightfully so.
I remember when I went to see my folks and tell them that I was about to propose to my lady at that time. They were like, I got your guy.
Yep.
It's been the jeweler of the family forever.
Yeah.
Right. And sure enough, I went there and talked to that dude. But I think that if I would have known you back then, I would have come here. And the reason I mention that is because I'm guessing there are folks listening at home who are in that space or might be one day. And before you buy whatever your parents tell you to buy, come here first, because this is it really is a special place, and it's a unique place. And I wish I would have known you, Chad, back then, because I definitely did. Because like when you're young, what do you know about jewelry and what do you know about jewelers?
Yeah,
you don't know anybody,
for sure,
right?
Yeah.
And I wish that I would have just kind of found my own path and gotten an engagement ring from a dude that loves bourbon and loves art.
Yeah.
So whatever, people, if you're thinking about proposing, or
anything.
Yeah. Don't just go with who your parents say their family jeweler is. Come here first.
You know, it's interesting. There's a small little tidbit of info in Cleveland, for that matter. In the last 2.5 years, there's been close to 20 jewelers that have closed.
Why do you think that is?
Couple different things. You know, one, you've got, if you're a jeweler and you've reached, 30, 40, 50 years in business and your kids don't want to take over the business, there's your period, exclamation point of your business.
Right.
You're going to close up, you're going to sell it, do whatever. The other is that we just kind of ended and we're on the upswing from the financial collapse in 2008. Okay. So in 2008, jewelry was not on anyone's radar for purchasing. Yes, people were still getting engaged, they were getting married, everyone still had anniversaries, but the metals market was so above and out of reach that no one was really buying jewelry. No one was getting anything custom made. What they were doing is they were selling jewelry, because if you bought something 20 years ago, it was now worth 2-3 times more than what you paid for it. So a lot of jewelers changed their business models to we buy jewelry.
Right.
Okay. At the time, I was working for a store, and then I left that business to work for another company where we were kind of in that buying metals game. But in the back, I still kind of, being an entrepreneurial spirit, I approached several jewelers and said, hey, I know you just fired your jeweler because you didn't really have the need for him. But if Alex comes in and needs something repaired, let me be your guy.
It's interesting you say that, because at least 2 different jewelers that you and I both know, to whom I said I was coming to do this podcast, they were like, oh yeah, Chad, he's who other jewelers send their jewelry to. They're special. And he gets it done. And I don't know that they know about all the wizardry and all the stuff that happens over there. But your reputation is definitely all about craftsmanship,
service,
and getting it done for other jewelers who might just be retailers.
Correct.
Yeah.
So back then with that, if you didn't have a guy in-house to do your work, you still weren't going to turn that client away.
Right.
But so that relationship was developed with several different companies.
This is definitely, without a doubt, unlike any other jewelry store I've ever seen in my life. Are you ready for the lightning round?
Oh man, hit me.
So ordinarily, and less often recently, due to her having new grandkids, but generally Molly would be here. I think she's actually grandmothering her grandkids right now as we speak. Her lightning round questions are as follows. Number 1, what are you binging right now?
What am I binging right now? Bourbon.
See, I like that. I always, when she's not here, I'm tempted to qualify that with like on TV. Yeah. But I don't want to, because I want to hear that too. Yeah. You're binging on stuff that's not on TV.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I am new. Actually, I'm new to the whole bourbon scene, and it's kind of taken off like wildfire. But it's so complex, and there's so many different variations to it. I can't get enough of it. I'm not like, I'm not power drinking it. I am just little sips here and there, understanding the complexities of it, and that's what I'm binging.
So, I'm glad you said it that way. I've noticed, I've always tried to refine my palate when it comes to spirits. Yeah. Right? Get away from the days of younger years when you would just do shots and get drunk and catch a buzz. Yep. What I notice now, so my girlfriend and I went to Argentina. We spent a month there in December. And Mendoza is a city in Argentina where all the world's best Malbecs come from. Okay. And I thought I knew about wine tasting, but I didn't know anything about wine tasting. But the one thing that I took away from there, which I still bring to bourbon and everything else, is sip it. Yeah. Sip it and try to engage all your senses. How it feels in your mouth, smell it. Yeah. Don't just drink so that it gets in your stomach.
Because when we were young, you were just running.
Exactly.
Now that you get a little older, you're kind of like, hey, man, I'm just going to stroll through this.
If you take your time, you take a sip, you will discover things about the thing you're drinking that you never even knew existed.
At all. Yeah.
What have you learned about bourbon in recent months or years that have been interesting to you?
There's several different things. One is primarily like what you smell might not be exactly what you taste.
Interesting.
And there's also, if you add a little bit of water, it might open up the smell of it. And it's just a creative spirit where it's not just, I'm going to mix it to make an old fashioned and that tastes good as mixed. but if you drink it neat and you might taste certain things, not only that, you might like this, what I'm drinking, and you might not like this other thing that I like.
What have you learned about the different kinds of bourbon that you've been experimenting with?
So I've learned that a $20 bottle of bourbon, isn't that good? Yeah, you need a little hit.
That's delicious.
There are $20 bottles that taste comparable to an $80 bottle. So there's some guys that are like, I wouldn't drink that. I wouldn't buy that. But if I put a $20 bottle of bourbon in a decanter and then showed you an empty bottle of an $80 bottle of bourbon, okay, some guys that I'm friends with, they've got palates that are really educated, like wine, sommeliers and that sort. But there's just a cool thing to it.
Have you been to Bull and Bird?
I have been to Bull and Bird.
What do you think about their bourbon selection?
You know what? I think there's a lot of places around here. They all have different ones, especially now. I mean, it's all the craze. There are some restaurants that end up getting certain things that I've never seen.
That's a very diplomatic answer to my question.
You're welcome.
Chad.
You're welcome.
That was good. I don't know if you have an allegiance to a competitor of Bull and Bird, but that was very diplomatic.
No, I don't. You know what? I have no favorites.
I will say this. Bull and Bird and Crumb and Spigot both have excellent bourbon selections. But I like how, I don't know, there's something... lately, I've been finding myself with meeting clients and other attorneys at Bull and Bird a lot, and I've been going down. They've got all the bourbons etched in the mirror over there. I've just been going down the list.
Going down the list.
Yeah,
it's a good bucket list.
They've got a really good selection. Is all I'm saying.
I tell you what I ended up doing was you'll have store picks or you'll have shelf picks, which are basically bottles that you can go to a liquor store and then you can just buy off the shelf. Then there are select barrel picks. So those are the ones that we'll dabble into that a little bit too. Let's say you go to the Winking Lizard, goes down to a certain distillery. They might buy certain number of barrels for themselves. Okay. So now, most bourbons that you buy off the shelf have all been blended to some, fashion, unless it's a single barrel select or something like that. But if you were to choose a bottle that was chosen, or a barrel rather, that was chosen by a large distiller for whatever reasons, whether it was the oak selection that barrel was made from, it had a certain nose and flavor profile that they wanted specifically for them, it'll blow your mind. I personally have had a $25 bottle of Buffalo Trace, and then I had like a $35 select bottle. Same bottles. The only difference is a sticker that designates that this is a chosen bottle. It's interesting. Blows your mind. Blows your mind.
They've got that Winks or Winking Lizard on, that's next to the restaurant over there. They've got an amazing
Lizardville.
Lizardville, that's it. Okay. The irony of the lightning round is that there's nothing quick about it.
Yeah, there's nothing quick here.
Molly's second question is, a perfect day for Chad Verhoff is?
I wake up around 5 a.m, make a cup of coffee.
It's early.
It's early. You'll love it, though.
I'm listening.
I'll go outside, and I actually just walk into the woods a little bit at our property and just wake up when everything else wakes up.
All right. Well, so first of all, do you notice that when that, because I love that time of the day too, when I'm up.
Best.
But do you notice how there's a moment in every morning, especially in the summertime, and the springtime, when it is almost deafeningly loud, like just birds and owls and
it all comes alive.
Yeah,
all comes alive.
It's like I mean, it's the craziest thing. Like, I can't believe how loud it is in the woods.
Yeah.
That early in the morning.
So I'll start off that way.
So that's your morning.
That's my morning. I get all of that out of the way. Then I'll go inside and I am waiting for my kids to wake up. Nothing better than hearing their footsteps coming down the stairs. You know, they got their bowls of Lucky Charms on the ready. And then we figure out the day. It might be comprised of going to Costco with the family to get stuff, but that's what we do. It might be, you know, picking up sticks or, you know, catching up on homework and stuff like that. Very family oriented.
Okay. So, it's now evening hour of your perfect day.
Evening hour, my perfect day. Might go on a walk with the family to get them out, and we might go fishing. We might hang out with some neighbors.
Do your kids do archery?
No, not as much as I would like them to. We've got little bows and, you know, beginner bows and things like that. In the summer, we'll go out in the backyard and my target, I'll blow up some balloons, and that way they can try to aim at something to pop, you know, instead of just shooting at a target. That's no fun. You know, you want something to blow up or pop or something. So, yeah, we try to get them to do that a little bit.
Molly's last lightning round question is my least favorite, and I make I don't hide it. But being faithful to Molly, I will ask it nonetheless. What is a song you never want to hear again?
Oh.
God, all I do is pray that I don't know this song because it'll get stuck.
I don't even know if I could think of one other than like Bop from, was it Hanson or something?
Yep.
Like that was probably one of the most annoying songs on the radio.
Nails on a chalkboard.
Right? Yeah. Yeah. How I even know that? I
think Molly asked that question just to piss me off.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So then, you know Christy George?
Yeah.
So we have a lightning round question called the Christy.
Okay.
If you could interview any person who ever lived, who would it be?
I would probably say, and it's a jewelry guy, Harry Winston.
Who's Harry Winston?
Harry Winston was a American icon jeweler. I mean, if you think of the Emmys, the Oscars 20 years ago, everyone was wearing Harry Winston. The cool thing about Harry Winston was that his father was a jeweler in New York in the early 1900s, and Harry was sent out to go. He was like a runner, and he ended up going into some little pawn shop or something because he saw a ring of some sort in the window. And I don't know if it costs, I can't remember the exact story, but if it costs, 25 cents or 10 cents, and he bought it. And he bought it with his own money. He went back to the shop, showed his father, ended up being a real stone. Back then, let's just say, put a number of it was worth $4,000. Boom.
Wow.
His whole legacy developed right then. So he basically is known for some of the largest, gemstones in his, in his portfolio. He's deceased, but his legacy is just, one that I'd love to sit there and have a cup of coffee and just figure out or understand what it was like for him as a kid in that time, to develop his eye for the craft. Be really cool.
Interesting. All right, we're going to turn it up a notch.
Yeah, crank it up.
Okay. We're going to get to my lightning round questions.
Uh-huh.
Chad, you are shipwrecked on a desert island for a minimum of 3 months, but it could be the rest of your life. Mm-hmm. You have no idea. You just know it's at least 3 months. You may bring with you on this ill-fated voyage any single author's entire bibliography, and that will be the only author you will ever read, possibly for the rest of your life. Who is the author?
So, wow. I don't know who the author is, but it would be whoever wrote the Army Survival Manual.
Interesting. Wow, that's the most cerebral answer we've ever had to that question.
I mean, I've got it downloaded on my laptop. So,
whoa, you just blew my mind, Chad. That's brilliant.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah. That's what I'd be reading.
I have a copy of that, by the way. You got one too?
It's on my computer. I downloaded the whole survival. It's like 400 and some pages.
I mean, most people say like Hemingway, Jesus,
what?
Or
I'll read all of that when I get my ass off the island.
You got practical. That is officially my favorite answer. All right. Well, let's see what you do with this one, Chad. Same shipwreck.
Okay.
Same desert island.
Yeah.
Same amount of unknown time between 3 months and the rest of your life.
Right.
You may bring with you any single musician's entire discography.
Wow.
Who do you bring? Could be a band. Could be an individual. Any musician.
Wow. And now, of course, I'm totally drawing a blank. No, I've got their name is on the tip of my tongue.
What are they? What's a song?
Dave, isn't it Dave Grohl?
Oh, Dave Grohl. Foo Fighters.
Foo Fighters. That's probably who I would bring.
Solid choice.
You know,
good. I mean,
I think that would have a selection that I could listen to for a good duration. Bad days, good days. You know, days of contemplation.
Sure.
Yeah.
Amazing musicianship, for sure.
Yeah.
Some dark shit in there.
Some
of it is a little
bit, but I mean, hell, you're on an island, man.
Yeah, I mean,
you're going to be going through some dark shit.
let's not. Yeah.
You know.
I like it. That's a good choice.
Yeah. Who would you pick?
For me, it would be Bob Dylan.
Bob Dylan.
For the sheer volume.
Yeah.
If you
there's that. Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
Like it's all very. Like it's memorable, intelligent, lots of words.
So you know what's interesting for me, part of my background is I never really got into any one particular artist. Dylan, if you're a Dylan fan, you know Dylan.
Yeah.
You know, I never had that.
Yeah.
You know, I was listening to Cameo when I was younger and the Bar-Kays and yeah,
wait,
man.
Hold on.
Word up, man. Word up. Come on, dude. It's the code word.
Oh my god. I think we just named this episode.
That's it. Word up. Yeah. But it's funny. So I listened to that. I listened to a lot of R&B. Then, you know, it's crazy. I listened to like Metallica and Skid Row but those don't have, you know, they were like, oh, here's a little taste and here's a taste. I never got into like...
Yeah, like none of those are conducive to the rest of your life listening to the
all,
same dude.
Whatsoever. I mean, I'm not going to be driving around the car with my 10-year-old being like, here, you've got to listen to this, man. This is ever world changing, you know?
I'm with you.
No.
I'm with you. Did you ever listen to Fish or The Dead?
No.
No?
Not...
I was on the fence with whether you were into it or not.
No. My guy that I listen to mostly right now is Will Hogue.
Who's that?
Will Hogue's a guy from Nashville. Just a cool kind of not country, not southern rock, and not just a cool guy. Check him out.
I will check him out. Chad, what is the habit or routine that you do on a daily basis that has given you the most mileage? I'm sorry, daily or regular basis. Doesn't have to be every day, but regular basis.
And this is factual.
I would expect nothing less.
I wake up every morning, first in my family. I go downstairs.
With or without an alarm?
Without an alarm.
All right, that's important.
Yeah, without an alarm. I go downstairs, I make a pot of coffee, and one of the first things I do is I bring a cup up for my wife who's still in bed. Almost every morning, if not every morning.
And that's giving you the most mileage of any routine.
Hell yeah, man. Are you kidding me? I don't know how you do it at your place, but you ought to be doing that.
No, that's a great one. That's a great one.
How my wife starts her day is what dictates my day, and that is...
I love it.
That's... Yeah.
When I was a kid, whenever I went to the grocery store with my dad...
Yeah.
He always got a bouquet of flowers for my mom.
Right.
And he used to tell me, I'm here anyway, and they've got flowers, and this is going to set the tone for the day and the week, right?
I've got a guy that comes in, great client, good friend of mine. He's bought the most jewelry, period. Could be a $30 something, not $20, but you get the idea. He buys a lot.
Yeah.
And I'm asking him, man, like, seriously, are you in that much trouble? And he says, no. He goes, I keep an article or a piece of jewelry on me or in my car every day because he's got a wife and daughters, and he doesn't know what he's walking into after work. So he's like, I'm prepared. Always be prepared. But cup of coffee every morning. She's not even awake yet, and I'll set it next to her, and then she'll wake up, and it's all good.
You know what I love about that is it would, like, at first blush, my first instinct about it was, well, that's brilliant because it means that she's going to like be so grateful to you. But in reality, I think there's a deeper thing about it. I think what it is it's because it makes you feel good.
Oh, for sure.
Because people in general, humans, I think, but you in this case in particular, you do there's something that comes with giving.
Yeah.
That really resonates with us. And especially if it's for someone you love.
Absolutely.
Whether they appreciate it or not,
right?
Whether they reciprocate or not, the reality is, and I bet you anything. I bet you if Lisa was sitting in this chair right now, she would say that's the best part of my day.
Yeah.
All right. The last and final, and by far the most difficult and most important lightning round question is: what is an embarrassing thing about yourself that very few people know? And, Chad, for extra credit, for bonus points, that no one else knows. Take your time.
That no one else knows? Wow.
Chad just passed out.
Yeah. I got lightheaded.
I know. Take your time. It's a difficult one.
No one else knows?
I mean, you're going straight to the extra credit.
Dude, I'm an open book. There's not much about me that someone doesn't know.
I don't want to know what happens behind that curtain
over there. No, that's yeah, you don't want to know.
This is attorney-client privileged being waived on this podcast.
Wow. Yeah, I can't think of anything that no one would know.
Well, that's the bonus. I mean, let's stick to.
Wow. All right. So what was, the first part was
an embarrassing thing about yourself that very few.
Very
people
few.
Know about
so
you.
there are few, and by few I mean maybe 9 would know this.
Very specific.
Yeah. Mrs. Bassett's art class. This goes into maybe 1987. We were doing a still life project in art class, and on the table, you like sat in a table and you had to draw what was in front of you from that perspective. Certain time, move to the next, and go all the way around this 12-foot table with various things on it. And when I got to one chair, I happened to notice a pair of tap shoes that I was drawing, and I thought, wow, it would behoove of me of trying these on because they look like my size. And so I think if you probably data searched it, you'd find that like Gregory Hines had a movie, Tap or something, same kind of time frame.
I remember that movie.
Okay, so my inner Gregory Hines came out, and I put those shoes on, and I was going to Fred Astaire the hell out of those shoes. And in doing so, there's the move where you kind of like lean forward and you're kind of walking fast, I guess. So I face plant into this hard school floor. I get a concussion. I'm passed out.
Wow, that went sideways.
Yeah,
I didn't expect it to go
quickly.
there.
I didn't expect it to go there either. So it, yeah. So
was there any blood?
I don't know if there was blood from my nose or not, but there was Yeah, it was a blackout moment.
Wow.
So they brought me to the nurse's office. I'm not sure if I went to the hospital. I don't think I did. But when I returned to school the next day, or maybe that after, I don't remember if I went home. I can't remember that. It's a blackout. But I do remember significantly that Dan Barnhart and Travis Mary, who were in the class, they made a tape outline of like a dead man on the floor in the configuration that I was in. And so that was a funny one. I think it made it into, like, the photo made it into the yearbook that year. But people were kind of like, what the hell is that? And yeah,
I think that the listener demographic of this podcast just extended into Lima, Ohio, substantially.
There's a reach, man. Your reach. We're broadening things. Please like us and follow us. Yeah.
I like it. So a small, well, the thing of it is, I bet it started as a small handful of people who knew about it, but then it quickly became the rage of the school.
It's possible.
Did you hear about Chad?
Yeah, but they didn't tell me, so I didn't know if they knew or not, so screw you.
The thing is, I often marvel at the things that I thank God were not filmed back then, when people didn't have smartphones. Could you imagine back then when that happened? This would go viral instantly.
Yeah, I would have been insta famous by then.
Yeah,
Well,
among other things. I mean, you and I both. I feel like I know you at this point, Chad.
I'm glad we weren't. Growing up in that.
There were no smartphones back then.
No, for sure.
I feel like we learned a lot today, Chad.
Yeah.
This has been really informative.
That's fun. It's good stuff.
Yeah. Thank you for doing this. Now, usually at this point, we ask our guest what they're working on, what's new, what do they want to get out into the universe. Yeah. We've talked about Derby Day, which is the
May 4th.
May 4th, 4 to 8, right here.
Yeah.
Anything else? Anything interesting?
Being a jewelry store, you always have new clients that are always coming in. There's a
new projects you're working on here.
I got a box full of new items. I just encourage anyone that, regardless what it is that you might need jewelry related, whether it's an earring back or a watch battery, it doesn't have to be a complicated thing.
Yeah. I will say this too. It's a little bit to reiterate what I said earlier. If you're gonna spend money on jewelry, spend it with someone who's got a good story. And when you come into this place, you're walking into a story and you're doing business with a dude with a story.
If there was a saying, now I can't remember the guy that said it, but he basically said, if you don't know jewelry, know your jeweler.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So come on in.
Now they know you.
Yeah.
Now they know you because they've been listening for over an hour to this podcast. Chad, thanks for being on it.
My pleasure.
I appreciate it. Folks, if you've listened this far, it's because you're either Lisa.
Right.
Or
my daughter Jordan,
Chad's other nuclear family, or Molly, or my dad, and or you're one of the. You know how many downloads we had last month, Chad?
How many?
1,300.
Seriously,
it's the craziest thing in the world.
Wow.
Yeah. That was in March. It was 1,100 in February.
Okay.
So by the end of April, I expect it to be like 18 million.
Yeah, for sure. A billion.
If you're one of them, here's what I infer from the fact that you're still listening to Chad and I blabber, or is it blather? It's blather.
Blabber.
Either one.
Yeah.
Both of them work here.
Yeah.
It's because you've enjoyed this podcast. So here's what I want you to do. Do me a favor. Go to whatever vehicle that you're listening to this in. It's probably statistically iTunes, right? But it could be Stitcher, it could be Spotify, it could be YouTube, and then and rate it, which is obviously going to be like 5 out of 5 stars because you're listening this far and you could have turned at any point. So do me a solid, rate it, leave a fine review. If you hated it, don't do that. Don't tell the rest of the world why you hated it. But feel free to send me an email about it, and I will consider your feedback critically. Thanks for listening. Come here on May 4th between 4 and 8. Yeah. Come here to check out Chad's fine wares and very fine selection of bourbon. And we will see you next time. Thank you.